Hello everyone, welcome and thank you for joining this webinar hosted by 7pace. We'll crack on in a few seconds. In the meantime, I just wanted to say my colleagues will be gathering questions in the chat. So any questions or doubts, drop us a message on there and we'll try to answer as many of your questions as we can towards the end of the presentation. And also we might run some polls during this webinar. I'd say let's start. So again, welcome. This webinar is about frequently asked questions that we receive via our support channels or from prospective customers that want to know the details of how our time tracker for Azure DevOps works. And today I will be presenting. My name is Andrea. I'm a product owner here at 7pace. And today I will be showing you some slides with some of these frequently asked questions, and then I'll move away from PowerPoint and open my browser and actually show you how you can actually address those questions from within our solution. So let's start. The first question we normally get from our customers is what are the different ways that allow you to add time into 7pace time tracker. As I said, I'll get into the details of this in a few seconds, but just to give you an overview, you can do this from timesheet, from monthly, and from within each individual work item. And let me show how that works. All right, so you can see we are now inside Azure DevOps, and in particular, we are inside the monthly page inside 7pace time tracker. As you can see, as I move the arrow on a cell, you will see there is a plus button appear here on the top right hand side of each cell, or if you actually click and select a cell, you'll see this add time button appear. These two are absolutely equivalent, so I'll just click add time, and you can see this panel appearing on from the right hand side, where all I need to do is just add all the required details. I'm going to be selecting a work item that I want to track my time against. Because I'm coming from the monthly page, the date is pre-populated because I selected from here. And then I'll set a start and end date, or sorry, start and end time. I can select an activity type here and maybe add a comment, and then save. As I said earlier, the other page you can log your time from is timesheet. Currently, there is no time logged from me here. I can again click add time from the top left hand side. Again, same panel will appear here. You can do it exactly the same. I just did from monthly and then add some time. I'll do it just for to show you how it will look like once you've logged some time. You see there is a search going on here. You can enter like a number, or so the ID of the work item you want to log your time against, or just look for the title. Okay, save again. And then it'll display like this. Last but not least, what you can do is go to your board, select any work item, then navigate to the 7pace time tracker tab. And here again, you'll see this add time button, same panel as before. And basically it will be displayed like you see it here. So let me just do that. There you go. Now you can see here sort of a summary of people who logged their time here. It's now set to 0 because I just logged a couple of minutes, but then you can also see here the breakdown by activity type. So another question that we often receive is, why am I seeing a "this door is locked" message? What that usually means is that you don't have permission to do whatever you're trying to do, and that you will need to get your admin to give you access to that functionality or that part of area within the settings. I'll show you in a second how to you can do that, but one important thing I would like to mention before we do that is there's a sort of user management area within the settings that where you can basically add, edit, or delete users, roles, and permissions. So basically, you can change their role within your organization, and also that there is a default role. So basically, what that means is that any new user that is added to your organization is going to have a specific role that you can decide upfront by default. And again, let me show how that works. All right, so this is the this door is locked screen that I mentioned earlier on. This is just a screenshot. I want to show it for reference. And as I mentioned, this is if you see this is probably caused by the fact that you don't have access to a certain functionality or area within 7-Page Timetracker. Any admin can resolve this by navigating into the settings, user management, and then clicking this link is going to take you to this page. This page is going to show a list of users, and you can see from here, this is the default role I mentioned. So if you change this to product, basically all new users will have a product role by default. If you set budget, they'll have a budget role and so forth. This is currently set to administrator just because this is a test instance that I'm using. And from here, you can also select one or multiple users by using this checkbox and assign them to a different role. You can see these roles start from default, this one here, and then they go from team to administrator. And as you go from team to administrator, the amount of permissions that they have increases. So, for example, team has access to monthly, timesheet, and time explorer, but they can only see personal data. Product, they have access to all of the above plus iterations, budget, all of the above plus budgets, and so forth. Administrator basically have unrestricted permissions. All right, good. So another question that we hear quite often is, how can I compare estimations with the actual time spent against a certain work item? So again, there's a few different ways you can go about this. My first suggestion would be to use the effort field. That is a field that accepts story points, complexity, and hours, and you can use that to capture your estimations. And once you do that, one thing you'll be able to do is to look at your pace, which indicates the ratio between the time that was initially estimated, or sorry, the effort that was initially estimated for a certain work item, and the time that was tracked against that work item. So what that means is basically, after a while, you'll get a sense of what your average pace is, i.e. how much time you spent on average to complete a story point. And if you realize that for a certain work item it's taking you the pace is quite high, it's taking you longer than it would normally takes, it means that there may be something wrong with your initial estimation, or that the work item is more complex than what you thought it was going to be. So that's the first point. The second thing you can do is to update the remaining hours or remaining work field. That's also very helpful, not as much for sort of comparing the initial estimation with the time track, but it's more of a sort of snapshot of your current progress. And it's a way that, if you're a developer, you can communicate to the rest of the team how much work is left for a certain work item, or if you are a product owner or a project manager, you can see, again, if it's how much work is left to do, basically. And then the last thing you can do is you can compare remaining hours with track time. You can do that from within DevOps. That data is always inside DevOps, so it can be accessed through the REST interface. Or the other thing you can do is you can just navigate to the work item that you're interested in, look at the history, and basically see, have a look at the initial estimate, and then see how much time has been logged against that item over time. I guess a caveat there is that, I'll show you in a minute, but that screen can be quite crowded, so it may be hard for you to find the information that you're looking for, but it's still a very good starting point if you just want to get a sense of progress. Let me show how that looks in DevOps now. So this is just the sample item that I took as an example. You can see here the effort field, as this has been set to 4. This is currently set to use story points. And if I navigate to the 7-page time tracker tab, you'll see how much time has been logged against this time, and you also see the pace which I mentioned earlier. So in this case, total time logged against this item is 3 hours, divided by 4 is 0.75, which rounds up to 0.8. So the idea is, of course, the bigger this number, the slower, I guess, is your progress. And once you have a sense of what your average pace is, you know whether you're making a good time or not. Going back to the details screen here, this is the remaining work or remaining time. That's the same field that I mentioned, and again, this is a snapshot of how much time is required to complete this work item. It's again an estimate. And then if you want and try to compare completed work versus remaining work, what you can do is go to the history tab, try to find the correct field. Is going to be, well, it can be a bit of a pain depending on how many logs you have here on the left. But if you find the right one, you'll find this information. So for example, in this case, initially remaining work was set to 10, then I logged 3 hours and I updated the remaining work field to 7 hours. So this makes perfect sense, right? Of course, if you start seeing that maybe people keep logging time, however, the remaining work value does not decrease proportionally, that's a bit of a flag that there is something wrong worth taking a look at. And one last thing I would like to mention regarding this is, again, here in the settings, work item automation, this is where basically you can change the values that the different fields are set to basically accept. So estimated effort, estimated remaining time, and completed work. It's also worth noting that these changes are applied at the project level. So should you want to apply the same changes across multiple projects, what you can click apply and copy to other projects. You'll be presented with this menu that allows you to select the projects that you want to apply the change to. All right, so fourth question, what are budgets and what do they help us do? So first of all, what can you do with budgets? You can create unlimited budgets. You can assign track time to budget. You can include or exclude items from a budget, and you can assign a budget to an object. For example, a release, a sprint, a work item, a workload, and so forth. And One important property that is worth mentioning here is that children items or objects inherit the budget that their parent item is assigned to. So what does that mean? So imagine you have, for example, an epic at the top level, and then a series of product backlog items that belong to that epic. You can assign a budget at the epic level, and then all these product backlog items will belong automatically to the same budget. So why is that important, and how does that add value to you? So the most common scenario is that we may want to track how much effort is being spent across initiatives, I'll call them like that sort of span across multiple sprints, releases or backlog items, and that's exactly what budgets have been designed for. Basically, with budgets, rather than creating a list of things you want to keep an eye on and then manually check and calculate the overall effort, what you can do is just create a budget and then cherry pick the backlog items that you want to keep an eye on, so that then you can navigate to our budgeting or our budget area inside 7-Page Timetracker in Azure DevOps, and get all the information that you need, basically. On top of that, of course, using budget makes it less challenging for you to manage workloads. It can be used for billing only specific hours to a client, because what I said earlier on, that you can sort of decide what should be assigned to a certain budget at a very granular level, at a workload level, and then they can be used for reporting internally. So let me give you a quick walkthrough of that now. So we are now in the budgets area within 7-Page Timetracker. Here is a list of all the budgets, and from here you can, for example, create a new budget. All you need to do is to add a budget name, plan hours, and a comment, which are going to be displayed here. So this is going to be the budget name, the comment, and plan hours. It's just a way for you to know, how much time are you supposed to spend against this, or to log against this budget. In this case, for example, we know that we've got about 15 hours to go. And from here, then you can, once you've selected the budget, in the budget detail screen, you can either edit it, delete it, or close it, which is going to make it basically so that nobody can change it unless it's open again. You can see from here that you can assign a variety of items to a budget. In this case, we have, for example, an iteration and a couple of different work items. Should you want to also have a specific workload tracked against or assigned to a budget, you can do that from Time Explorer. I'm going to select a random workload here. You see we have on the budget checkup layout, you have by default the budget column displayed. So I will select the budget I'm currently working on. And then if I go back here and refresh, you'll see the workload being added to the list. And then, of course, if you want, you can click here and delete it, and that is going to go away. One important thing to mention is the export functionality. So as you click export, you get you need to make a selection from a few options here, and you can set the date range for the report that you want to get, and you can select which projects the report should be about. And then I'm not going to click get report now, but because I've already downloaded and put it in Google Chrome, Google Drive, so you can see a bit of a sample. And this is basically what you will get. So team member, work item title, comment, start and end date. There's really a huge amount of fields here. The one thing that I would like to mention here is if you do want to get the billable information, which is again an option you can select from here, include billable and billable hours column in the export, then this is what it is going to look like. So you're going to have for each item in the export, you get is billable, false and true flag, and then if it's true, the amount of billable hours for that item. All right, so next on we have reports, and the question is, what are the functionalities of reporting? So this is a huge topic. We could possibly do a separate webinar just for this. So for the sake of this presentation, I'll just quickly show you the ropes. And as a general introduction, just keep in mind that within the reporting area, inside of our solution on Azure DevOps, there's a bunch of default reports that basically allow you to get, for example, an overview of your personal progress and what you've been working on, and an overview of your team activities and a few others. And also there's a few filters that you can sort of use to narrow down the information, the data that you want to get you want to see in your report. So without further ado, let me give you a quick walkthrough. Right, so we are now inside the reporting area in 7-Pace Timetracker. You can see here on the top left, there's a drop-down from which you can select a default report. I'm not going to get into the details of all of this, but just to give you a quick overview of the first two. Personal overview is just basically a summary of your personal activities, and it shows an individual progress line chart, a breakout of the days you work, total time work, and so on. Whilst if you select team overview report, that's sort of basically the equivalent report for your team. One thing worth mentioning here is the only difference between these two is that if you select the team overview report date period, this is going to give you the ability to select a specific date range. Whilst this one here, it shows data for the current day, week, month, and year. From this dropdown, you can also create a new report. There's some properties you need to set here. Of course, the name of the report you want to create. And then here, basically, it allows you to narrow down the data you want to see for the current user and the current project only. Whilst here, this option sort of enable and disables the ability to set a date range for the report you are creating. As far as widgets are concerned, these are what we call widgets here. So these tiles, you can reorder widgets by clicking that chevron and then reorder widgets here. And then you'll be able to sort of drag and drop them wherever you want on the screen. And you can also add new widgets. In order to do that, you click Add Widget, then select the type of widget or chart that you want to see. That is going to open a panel from the right-hand side. And from here, you'll need to select the endpoint which you want to use, which is gonna, you can find a lot of information about that in our documentation. And then you need to construct the query so that it displays the data that you're after. One other thing I would like to mention around privacy. So this is from our documentation, but you should know that users have access to all work logs and work items within reporting. Should you have any privacy concerns and want to restrict access to only those projects to which your users currently have access, you can do that from within the settings. So all you have to do is go into your 7-page time tracker menu, click settings, service account, and then you can enable and disable this checkbox. Okay, so last but not least, question number 6. How do we use 7-page time tracker to track internally billable chargeback software development work? So again, I'll show you the basics in a few seconds, but just as a general overview, there's three things to keep in mind. First of all, inside the settings area, there's a billable by default option that can be enabled should you want all your workloads to be marked as billable. And but there's still a way to change individual workloads from within the Time Explorer page, where again they can be marked as billable or non-billable. In terms of getting the data out of our solution, there's a few different areas, including the Time Explorer reports, Time Explorer export, budget page export, and then using the reporting API. Let me show you. So we are now inside the settings rules, and you can see from this screen here, if you scroll down, you'll be able to see the billable by default option that I just mentioned. Then if you want to update individual workloads, you can do that from Time Explorer. In this case, you see I have a list of workloads here, and for each workload, I have billable and billable hours column. One thing we're mentioning is if you cannot see this by default, all you need to do is to go into the click columns basically, and from here look for the column you're looking for, billable, and you'll be able to check this billable and billable hours, and then you'll have them displayed on this screen, and you'll be able to drag them in whichever position you prefer. So from here, you see if you unselect a workload, the billable hours are going away, and of course, if this item is assigned to budget, then you'll see that reflected in the budget export that I showed just a minute ago. All right, so I think that's us as far as the first part of this webinar is concerned. So thank you again, everyone, for joining, and we'll now move on to the next phase or section of the webinar, where we'll try to answer some of the questions that were asked during the presentation.
Right, so let's have a look at some of the questions that have been asked. The first one is from Louis. What are the most common ways users are using the Time Explorer and the billable feature? So in terms of use cases, I would say that one frequent scenario that we see is, for example, companies that are operating or are working on different projects, and they may be able to bill a third party for some of the projects that they're working on. Think, for example, an agency, whilst they may also be working on some internal products. And that's a very good example of a scenario where being able to set specific workloads or work items as billable from Time Explorer is particularly helpful. I think I might have mentioned that earlier, but specifically within Time Explorer, you can be very granular and select specific workloads as billable, and there is a sort of a simplified version of reporting from there as well. So basically, you can select. You can get an Excel export with billable and billable hours as column, get all the data outside of our platform, and then use that to manipulate the data and then get all the insights that you need. And in terms of timesheet, so is David, your question? Is there a way to see the details of the timesheets as an approver without having to drill down one by one? So I guess there's a couple of ways we can answer that. So you can see some details from the approval screen, but as far as timesheet is concerned, that's as I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, that's mostly a way for a place where you can log your own time. So we are considering coming up with some filters also on the monthly page, but that's something we are kind of thinking about at the moment. We haven't got at the implementation phase yet. If there are no more questions, there's one more thing I would like to mention. In the meantime, if there's anything else, feel free to pop us a message. But that's actually one of the questions that we haven't answered in this webinar. You know, how if there's something that is not implemented yet, you know, how can I request that feature? That's actually a quite important thing, and it's quite simple. You can just navigate to our website, 7pages.com, and then select the support page. And from there, you can access documentation, you know, release history, and there's also our feature request community. And then from there, you can either create a feature request or do a quick search, see if someone else have asked about that specific functionality before, and upload that that feature. And that way, you'll be notified when, you know, there's an update whenever we present some additional information or we ask for some questions to our customers. So you'll get automated notifications for that. Anything else from anyone? Right. Unless there's anything else from anyone, I think that's us. You can always get in touch with us using our support channels. We'll be happy to answer any questions. And as I said, we have a quite active community that can also be used. Okay, then. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time, and speak soon.